A couple days ago, I made a video talking about this subject where one of the directors for the upcoming CD Projekt Red game, The Witcher 4, made some statements in regards to the criticism being lobbed at the game where I thought it was actually a pretty good response for him. Basically, just to kind of sum it up, I'm not going to go through all that. You could watch my video if you want to see what I said about that. But he essentially said that much of the criticism is valid. He gave kind of a wishy-washy political answer, but one thing that he didn't do, which is what I praise him mainly for, is that he didn't attack the audience. He basically said, we understand the criticism, but this is what we think would be best for the story that we're actually telling. And we didn't make these decisions lightly or anything like that. And I thought, okay, that's a good response. It's not necessarily the best, and I'm not necessarily convinced either that the game wasn't done the way it was in order to push a political agenda, but I would at least give him credit for not attacking the audience. However, not everyone working on The Witcher 4 is the same way, because we have this other story, and this kind of came out around the same time. I just was sitting on this for a while. I'm not sure if I wanted to talk about this specifically, but I do think it is important mentioning this as well, because there are people working for CD Projekt Red now who don't necessarily share that sentiment of the director, where you get the lore designer for it who has a history of attacking gamers when they're not necessarily aligning with his political view. And in fact, he actually said back when he was writing for The Gamer several years ago, when talking about CD Projekt Red game at the time, Cyberpunk 2077, he basically attacked the audience of that game and said that there are a bunch of fascists and other people like that who would play that sort of game and who would actually that game would appeal to, which I think it's kind of strange that CD Projekt Red would hire this person to work for him when he said this about their previous customer base. But apparently they saw what this guy wrote about their customer base and were like, yeah, we want to bring him on board for our next big project. CD Projekt Red franchise and lore designer for The Witcher 4 described Cyberpunk 2077 players as fascistic, unempathetic, and depraved, as well as poisonous and predatory wankers. Sounds like a real nice guy right there. Cian Maurer, CD Projekt Red's franchise and lore designer, who is working on the upcoming The Witcher 4 game, previously called CD Projekt Red's player customers fascist, unempathetic, and depraved, as well as poisonous and predatory wankers. Maurer, who has been working on CD Projekt Red since April 2023, previously worked at The Gamer from September 2022 through December 2021 as an associate editor and then the lead features editor. And there's a screen grab right here of his LinkedIn profile where you can see the places he's worked at. So The Gamer previously, a couple other places in there, a freelancer, and now CD Projekt Red. Mar wrote an article published in December 2020 at The Gamer titled "People Who Call Cyberpunk 2077 Perfect Are the People That Cyberpunk Warns Us Against." And obviously, this is all a matter of opinion on him. A lot of his criticism for the player base of Cyberpunk 2077, at least according to him, comes from the fact that there is another games journalist, I think for Game Informer, where she has epilepsy, which means flashing lights and other things like that could induce seizures. And then she was complaining about how people online were sending her videos and stuff like that in order to try to induce that. I think it had to do with the fact that she gave Cyberpunk 2077 a negative review. So they were sending that stuff and they're saying it's players of that game were upset with her. So that's what they're doing. And I'm not going to condone that sort of behavior because epilepsy obviously can be a serious issue. And I don't think it's right to try to cause physical harm to someone. To me, it's not necessarily akin to swatting someone, but it's still trying to do something online in order to elicit a response to them physically that could cause serious harm to them. So I'm not going to condone that behavior. And I think people who do that should be called out. But going after the player base to a game as a result of that, I think is pretty bad. So that was going on. Leanna Rupert, who was the one who actually was having those videos sent to her. And then Mar didn't really like a lot of that stuff. Where is it? He then claimed Cyberpunk 2077 were harassing so-called trans people. Mar wrote, I wonder if they realize that by harassing trans writers who have rightfully and justifiably critiqued Cyberpunk 2077 haphazard and sometimes harmful representation of trans people, that they themselves are the exact kind of people that Cyberpunk is designed to destroy. So I guess this person who had the epilepsy, Leanna Rupert, maybe I don't know what this person is. Maybe they're trans, had some complaints about the game, was getting attacked as a result of the complaints. And then he has the white knight for a trans person for whatever reason. This is me trying to understand this. Like, I don't think this is the key of the story. I'm just trying to provide some background about what's going on. And from his perspective, when he attacks a lot of the player base for CD Projekt Red's games, company that he is now working for. So they themselves are the exact kind of people that Cyberpunk is designed to destroy: fascistic, unempathetic, and depraved proponents of a regime designed to foster irreversible and indiscriminate misery in technophilic dystopia. Isn't this kind of a little, I think he has something backwards on there. It's kind of ridiculous. He's saying they're designed to foster irreversible and indiscriminate misery. I would say the people who are advocating to give in to your delusions and physically mutilate yourselves irreversibly, in some cases, I would say those are the ones who are trying to foster an irreversible and indiscriminate misery. Because what's more irreversible? Thinking that you're trans, going to therapy, and then coming out of that thinking like, okay, maybe I wasn't trans, maybe that's just a phase. Or the person who thinks they're trans and then gets their junk cut off and then sticks on hormones for the rest of their life. I would say that's more irreversible and damaging than someone who has to work through their problems. But apparently this person doesn't agree with me on that one. So by his logic, I guess I would be fascistic or something like that, even though I would argue that my point of view is probably more empathetic, because it's saying like, okay, I understand you're going through something right now. Maybe you should actually work through it, as opposed to just trying to jump to the conclusions that you need to do these medical treatments on yourself. A bit later in the article, he declared the people who perceived Cyberpunk 2077 as some impenetrably perfect game, the vast majority of whom haven't so much as played a single second of it, are a gross testament to the members of society, it, and the cyberpunk genre at large, paint as antagonistic. So he's saying it's not even people who played the games. Basically, he created a straw man. These are the type of people who like Cyberpunk 2077. These are the type of people who would attack this one person or send them this person. And I'm not even saying it's people who necessarily played this game. I'm just going to use them as a stand-in for everyone I don't like. Anyone who disagrees with me that I don't like, these are the type of people who are like that. And they're also the type of people who would play this game. And that's why the people who play this game are bad people. You see what I mean here? It doesn't make sense. He's basically just creating something to attack, and he's using the audience of CD Projekt Red game as pretty much the target of his ire. I can assure you of one thing: the people who call Cyberpunk 2077 perfect and refuse to acknowledge its failings are the very same people who have no place in society that Cyberpunk warns us against. He declared, as the internet drowns in vitriol, virulence, and anticipation of the game's full, unadulterated launch, these people are sharks in the water, hungry for blood. But we are not living in Cyberpunk, and we have not yet reached transphilic dystopia. We can suppress their hatred by starving them until they cannibalize each other and revel in humanity that Cyberpunk 2077's quieter moments offer, away from the maelstrom and free of the people it has exposed as poisonous and predatory wankers. Well, obviously that's not the case, because from his perspective, those very same people are basically winning in gaming. We've seen this last year, a lot of the games that are trying to push the agenda that he would advocate for are failing. Meanwhile, a lot of the games that don't push that agenda and are just, fun games, not even saying the agenda from the other perspective, but I mean, just kind of politically neutral. Those are the ones that are succeeding. And that's the people that would be the fans of Cyberpunk 2077, or basically the target of all of his hatred. Those are the people that are ultimately winning out in this one. There was other people looking through past posts he's made on social media. In one post, he made it clear he wants to physically punch them. I didn't realize until this tweet, but this is now also what I want. You want to punch gamers, or you want CG to punch you? Me and Caitlin will punch gamers together. Okay. In another, he described them as toxic little weirdos. Sharing this meme of Bernie Sanders. I'm once again asking for you to stop being toxic little weirdos. Yeah, that's just kind of what it is. And like I was saying earlier, I think it's kind of strange that CD Projekt Red would hire this person to work for them, but I don't know. I don't think they're necessarily hiring the best people for the job. I think they're hiring the best people who will kind of push their agenda. In fact, you go to their website, they even have a entire page dedicated to DEI and other stuff like that. So they're not making it a secret. This is what they stand for as a company. And when I was talking about the director earlier who was trying not to attack gamers and be more diplomatic about the criticism that the game's having, I essentially said that that's good, but I'm not necessarily convinced that this is the environment over at CD Projekt Red. I think a lot of the people who are working for that company are pretty much in the opposite stance, or at least they believe in attacking people. So just because you have one good person there doesn't mean the rest of the people at the company are the same way. And I think most of the people at the company are probably more in line with the lore director, who would openly advocating for crimes against people that they don't personally like because they say stuff on social media that they disagree with. Does this mean that the upcoming game, The Witcher 4, is going to be a bad game? No, the game could still be good. The problem, though, I have is when you have a company that pushes DEI like they do, that they prioritize hiring people who will agree with the right messaging as opposed to necessarily being the best people for the job, well, then you can have other issues with the games that are actually released. So even if they don't have DEI elements within the game itself, it could seem like it's a game that's completely free of all that stuff. But if the company is basically hiring people that agree with them politically, then that means you're going to have a lot of other problems with the game, whether it's the graphics aren't up to par, or the frame rate drops, quest lines don't make sense, or just a lot of other errors that people point out to for bad game design. You can have a lot of that stuff present because, like I said, the people that are working on it aren't the best for the job. They're just the best for the job who happen to fit the agenda that the company is trying to pursue. I don't know if that's going to be the case for The Witcher 4. We don't know much about it at this time, but this isn't necessarily instilling hope, even if what the previous narrative director, the video I talked about, said. That's a little bit of hope inspired by seeing that. But then when I see this latest information coming out from the lore designer of the game, I think that just kind of knocks it all away. So right now, my position on The Witcher 4, I would say, is just kind of neutral, but other stuff like this on their website just kind of makes me lean more in the negative side of things. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Do you think that CD Projekt Red should hire someone who openly is antagonistic towards the fan base of their previous games? Or do you think that's something else entirely, and don't worry about that? Comment below and let me know. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.